Story time about how my best friend's dad tried to assault me. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. I repeat, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. I'm now 24, but 10 years ago, a new girl moved into our town. Her and I quickly became best friends in school. She would always come over to my house and have dinner with me and my parents. My parents really grew to love her because she was so polite and really cared about me. The only thing was that she never wanted me to go over to her house. At first I thought it might be because she was embarrassed of her house or something, and eventually I asked her and she told me that her dad was abusive towards her mom, and that was the reason why she didn't want me to come over. I felt terrible that she had to live like that, so I expressed to my mom that I was really concerned about her. So my mom actually asked my best friend if she wanted to come live with us for a little bit. Let's call my best friend Sarah. Sarah said no because she wanted to be with her mom. But my mom really wanted to help Sarah and her mom. My mom was in an abusive relationship herself when she was younger, so she understood what Sarah and her mom were going through. My mom decided to invite Sarah's mom over for dinner. That's when my mom asked her about their living situation, and Sarah's mom confessed that it was pretty bad. My mom suggested that she should try to get a divorce, and a few weeks later, she filed for divorce. We were all so happy because this meant things would get better for Sarah and her mom. And things did get better. Her dad moved out to his own apartment, and a few weeks later, he had a new girlfriend. I was able to stay over at Sarah's house, and it was really fun. One of the times that I was with Sarah at her house, her dad showed up. But he started making me feel really uncomfortable. He told Sarah that I was the prettiest friend she'd ever had. I could see him staring at me. After he left, Sarah apologized. I went home and tried not to think about it. A few days later, I was walking home when Sarah's dad pulled up next to me. Part 2 is up. Part 2 of how my best friend's dad tried to assault me. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. I repeat, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. One day that I was at Sarah's house, I decided to walk home instead of calling my mom to pick me up. As I was walking home, Sarah's dad pulls up next to me. At this point, I still hadn't forgotten what he had said about me, and I still felt really uncomfortable. He asked me if I needed a ride, and I politely said no. Then he started to laugh and asked me if I was scared of him. Of course I said no, but the truth is that I was. And he said, well, then get in the car if you're not scared of me. And I did. As we got closer to my house, he put his hand on my lap. He asked me if I had a boyfriend, and I pushed his hand away. Then he asked me why I was being so rude. I told him that he made me feel uncomfortable, that I just wanted to get out of the car and walk the rest of the way home. He said no because it would be dangerous for me to be by myself walking at night. He put his hand back on my lap and told me that I was really sturdy. That's when he grabbed my hand and tried to put it on his lap. Of course, I pulled my hand away really quick. Then he pulled over really fast and tried to kiss me. I was so beyond disgusted. I just started yelling, and this really took him by surprise because he must have thought that I was just gonna let him. While I was yelling at the top of my lungs, I managed to unlock the car and open the door. I basically threw myself on the ground, and he started yelling at me, telling me to shut up. He tried to pull me back into the car, but at this point I was laying on the ground, so he had to pick up dead weight. He grabbed my foot and started pulling me back towards the car, but I started kicking him. He told me that I was overreacting and that he was just trying to be friendly. Luckily, a few of the neighbors heard me screaming because I was right in front of their house. They came outside and ran towards me because they saw me struggling with him. That's when the woman said that she was going to call the cops. He tried to tell the lady that I was overreacting and that he had only leaned over to put the seatbelt on, but I took it the wrong way. I told her that he tried to kiss me and she started calling the cops. That's when he drove away. I literally could not believe what had just happened. Finally, the cops arrived and so did my mom. I told them everything that happened, and I even told them that he had made a comment about me in Sarah's house a few days before that. They quickly started looking for his car and found him at a parking lot. They arrested him and he spent 2 nights in jail. His girlfriend then went to bail him out. She told the cops that he was with her and that I was just lying and that I made everything up. She even went as far as to tell the police that I had been hitting on him and that she had been a witness to it. She would even call my house at 2 in the morning and hang up. I even saw her car near my house and by my school, which means she was following me. Part 3 is up. Part 3 of how my best friend's dad tried to assault me. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. I repeat, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. I called the police to tell him that his girlfriend was following me. That's when the cops said that I could probably get a restraining order against him and his girlfriend. Sarah and her mom came over to our house after they heard what happened. Of course, they felt really bad, but they weren't surprised. Sarah told me that that's why she never wanted me to come over because her dad had commented things about her friends before. Worst of all is that they couldn't keep him in jail for what he did to me, but a few months later he was finally put into prison because of something else he did. Apparently he had tried to steal a car or something. Remember the crazy girlfriend I told you Sarah's dad had? She kept following me for a long time. She would even show up to my school asking me if I wanted a ride home. Eventually I was able to get a restraining order against her, but she was really scary. A few years ago she tried to follow me on Instagram. I had to block and report her. I mean, what kind of woman would fight for a man like that? The good news is Sarah and I are still good friends to this day. We even went to college together and now have steady boyfriends. Even Sarah's mom remarried and she's really happy with her husband. I look back at what happened as a learning experience, but to be honest, if he ever gets out of prison, I'm scared. Shout out to my follower Remy for always supporting me and watching my lives. If you want a shout out, watch my lives to get picked. Bye!
I took my daughter, who's 14, to urgent care for a double ear infection yesterday. They took her weight and she is about 15 to 20 pounds overweight for her height and age. I was shocked by this and I asked her if she exercises at my ex-wife's house. She said that since she takes violin lessons 4 times per week and tutors the other 2 days, she gets home at 5:30 to 6 every night, has dinner, then takes a shower and does her homework. So exercising is difficult for her to achieve. She said she walks the dog for 45 minutes every morning and every evening. I told her that we're going to take a walk every night while she's at my house and that her current weight needs to come down. I told her that I didn't want to make her feel awkward about it and that she could talk to me. She nodded and just turned away. Today, I went to the store and bought Weight Watchers frozen stir-fry bowls and told her that if she was going to eat dinner tonight, she could have one of those. She looked at them and asked me, is 180 calories enough for dinner? I replied yes, and if she was still hungry, she could have a yogurt. She then went to her room and hasn't spoken to me since. My ex-wife texted me and said my daughter called her crying and she called me harsh and asked for what I did. I proposed that she do a sport and she said that she doesn't have time because of orchestra. I told her that maybe orchestra was something that she could come back to after doing a sport, and she didn't say anything, only stared at me and then went on her phone and started typing something seemingly very angrily. I don't know what to do. Am I wrong for trying to get her to be healthy?
Story time about why you should never, ever do drugs. So a little background information. In my town, on the 15th of June this year, 2 girls got kidnapped in my hometown. So I kind of knew these 2 girls. I mean, they went to my school, but that was really it. Because low-key, I didn't want to be friends with them, and I kind of hated them. They were in 7th grade, I was in 8th grade, so they were probably like a year younger than me. Anyway, so it was a Wednesday, and the last time they had been seen was at 8 p.m. with a 30-year-old man. They were supposedly doing drugs outside of a McDonald's. Well, I guess this man saw that they had been doing drugs, and he wanted some. Before that, I guess he kind of eased into the question because he was like talking to them, getting to know them, and I guess he thought he had a really good shot at getting some drugs. But when he asked, they said no. So then he asked a few more times and they finally gave them to him, but whenever they got closer, he grabbed both of them, put him in his van, and drove off. And he hid them in his house. Like for part 2. Part 2 of why you should never ever do drugs. So like I said, he asked for them again, and finally the girls decided to give him some. But when they got closer, he grabbed both of them and shoved them in his van, drove off. Well, he ended up driving to his house and decided to hide them there. Well, one of the girls' aunts posted something on Facebook saying that both of them were missing, and soon the news made an article that literally said, drug addict and her friend gets kidnapped. They went missing for like 6 days, and on the 22nd of June, they were found, but now they won't stop bragging about how fun it was to get kidnapped. And that is why, still to this day, I absolutely despise these girls.
Am I the asshole for frightening a snooping neighbor by opening my door and causing her to fall? I, 37 female, live in a pet-friendly, no-breed restriction apartment building. It's important to mention I live in a city with a significant crime rate. I live on the 3rd floor and I don't share a landing with any of my neighbors, and anyone coming up to the 3rd floor is coming there for me. We don't have a secure gate or front door to the building. I have a 40-pound dog, not aggressive in the slightest. Her one guarding tendency is to bark at the door if she hears anyone outside. She's part hunting hound, so she has a big vocal howl bark. This is really comforting because sometimes people will come up to my landing who have no business being there, and my dog will actually scare them away. Am I the asshole for frightening a snooping neighbor by opening my door and causing her to fall? Downstairs neighbor, 45 to 50 female, has been on my landing several times. Sometimes she brings mail, but others she's just lurking. She once even moved my mat. I walk my dog, she asks where my other aggressive dog is. Each time I tell her I only have one dog and that she sounds aggressive at the door. Last week, my property manager emailed me about reports that I may have 2 dogs. I wonder where they got that report. Today, from the people, I saw her bending in front of my door but couldn't tell what she was doing. I swung it open and my dog was standing beside me loudly barking. She fell on her ass because she was looking at the mat again. I said, see, just one dog like I told you. I offered to help her up, but she called me an a-hole and a b-word and said the building was better before I moved in. Am I the asshole for telling my fiance to get her insecurities in check and grow up after she humiliated my coworker? Recently, I, 25 male, got engaged to my amazing fiance, 24, Amy. I was the happiest I'd ever been when Amy said yes and was nothing but excited for our wedding. When planning, we both agreed to invite our coworkers. As I checked off the list, Amy spoke up and said that everyone can come except for Tally. Tally is one of my closest friends, so this surprised me. She's met her multiple times and there never seemed to be an issue. When I asked why, she said she doesn't like her and finds a relationship uncomfortable. She said she thinks Tally is the type of person to sway taken men and be the center of attention. After more talking to see where she got this idea, it turned out that this was based on nothing but Tally's looks. Am I the asshole for telling my fiance to get her insecurities in check and grow up after she humiliated my coworker? Recently, I, 25 male, got engaged to my amazing fiance, 24, Amy. I was the happiest I'd ever been when Amy said yes and was nothing but excited for our wedding. When planning, we both agreed to invite our coworkers. As I checked off the list, Amy spoke up and said that everyone can come except for Tally. Tally is one of my closest friends, so this surprised me. She's met her multiple times and there never seemed to be an issue. When I asked why, she said she doesn't like her and finds our relationship uncomfortable. She said she thinks Tally is the type of person to sway taken men and be the center of attention. After more talking to see where she got this idea, it turned out that this was based on nothing but Tally's looks. Am I the asshole for snapping at my husband after finding him asleep when he was supposed to watch our son? I'm a new mom and I have a 6-month-old son. I have extended maternity leave, but my husband convinced me to go back to work earlier than I was supposed to. The first week went well, but then this came out. Yesterday I came home from work and found my husband sleeping on the couch. Not flat, but he was sitting up and his head was leaning to the side with our son sleeping in his lap. He was even snoring, if I recall correctly. I was dumbfounded. I loudly called his name, telling him to wake up. He then asked why I came home early, but I asked how long he'd been sleeping like that. He said he didn't know exactly, but after our son fell asleep. It was at this point that I went off on him. Am I the asshole for snapping at my husband after finding him sleeping when he was supposed to watch our son? At this point, I went off on him and said he shouldn't have let our son out of his sight, but he did that when he closed his eyes. He said he was just napping and our son was with him, not in the other room. I stated he should never be sleeping while alone with our son and that there's no one else in the apartment because anything could happen. Again, he said he was just napping and that since he's naturally a light sleeper, then nothing will happen that he wouldn't know about. He said this is just my paranoia since I'm having issues staying away from our son. Our son woke up from the noise we made while arguing and I took him and entered the room. Later, my husband said I overreacted and treated him like a babysitter. Because instead of seeing him as an equal parent, I scolded him. Am I the asshole for choosing to work at home when my Zoom meetings annoy my husband? My employer has given the employees the choice of working at home or going into the office. With what's going on, I feel safer to stay at home. The problem is that I often have 2 or 3 one-hour Zoom meetings a day. I use headphones, but I do talk during part of them. I close the door, but the noise bothers my husband, who is in the other room. He's home all day because he's unemployed. He says I'm selfish to stay at home and bother him when I could choose to go to work in the office, and weighs my health concerns as paranoid. I do feel guilty because he gets really upset by the noise and says it's hard for him to focus on stuff he's reading when he's hearing me talk. Am I in the wrong? Should I go into the office a few days a week?
I was trying to put my friends' kids to bed and they were not having it. They were running around like, ah! And I was like, come on guys, let's go to bed. And they were just ignoring me. And so I remember this trick my mom used to do when I was little where she would say, okay, I'm closing my eyes and I'm counting down from 5. And when I open my eyes, everybody better be in bed. And so I tried it. I told them that's what I was going to do. And I said, when I open my eyes, everybody better be in bed or else. So I counted down. I opened my eyes. I could hear their feet the whole time just going like boom, boom, boom towards their rooms. And I was so relieved when I opened my eyes and they were in bed because that was my last move. I don't have any other parenting moves. I don't know how to parent. I don't know what or else meant. I don't know what they thought I was going to do. Like if I had opened my eyes and they were still standing in front of me, I would have just been like, damn it. Not even that, because I can't curse in front of children, or I try not to. I also try not to say any curse-adjacent words, because you can get in trouble for those too. One time I was with a different friend's kids, and I said freaking in front of them, and the son looked up at me and he said, that's a bad word, and you're not allowed to say it in front of us ever again. And initially, I wanted to defend myself and be like, freaking's not a bad word. But instead, I figured that maybe their parents had taught them it was a bad word, which they had. And so I got really apologetic, and I was like, I am really, really sorry. That was a bad word, and I will never say it in front of you again. So nothing even close to that. If I had opened my eyes and they were still in front of me, I would have been like, that was it. That was my last move. The revolution has been successful. You may stay up till midnight and brush your teeth with sugar.
Storytime, my best friend slept with my boyfriend on my birthday. So a little background information. I was 16 and a sophomore in high school. Well, I have this best friend who we are going to call Sarah. Her and I became super close over the summertime, but she was like on and off best friends with this other girl who we're gonna call Mackenzie. But I had this boyfriend who I was also really on and off with. And Sarah knew about all the problems within our relationship. Well, I guess I underestimated how close Sarah and Mackenzie were, because everything that I told Sarah, she went back and she told Mackenzie. And not to mention, Mackenzie was really close with my boyfriend. So of course, she told my boyfriend everything that I was saying. This ended up causing a huge fight between my boyfriend and I. Well, the night before my birthday, my boyfriend and I were going back and forth arguing, and around 12 a.m. on my birthday, I forced myself to fall asleep, and at around 1 a.m., I woke up to 20 Snapchat notifications, all from my boyfriend. And when I opened them, I saw the worst thing ever. Like for part 2. Part 2 about how my best friend slept with my boyfriend on my birthday. So like I said, I woke up at around 1 a.m. to 20 Snapchat notifications from my boyfriend, and I saw the absolute worst thing ever. The first 5 notifications were just him calling me names, and then all the other ones were just him doing stuff with my best friend. And you guys can already guess what I mean by doing stuff. So at this point, I was heartbroken, I was pissed off. But of course, because I gotta have the receipts, I went and took a video off my sister's phone of everything that he sent me. In the morning, I woke up to a text from an unknown number, and it turned out to be my boyfriend's best friend saying that him and Sarah were now together. So my boyfriend asked me to meet up and apologize. So I met him at this park, and he apologized to me, telling me that he wanted to get back together with me. But I told him to KMA, and I left. Then Sarah came to my house and keyed my car, and then we fought on my front lawn. And then after that, she was texting me about how she was coming back to my house. Like for part 3. Part 3 about how my best friend slept with my boyfriend. So like I said, she came to my house and she keyed my car. And I caught her, so I went outside. We fought on my front lawn. After she left, she kept sending me messages saying that she was coming back to my house so we could fight again. But she was blocked, so I didn't get any of the messages. And then my ex came to my house and brought me flowers. And this was all in a span of one day. So because it was my birthday party, my cousins were at my house, and I already told them everything that happened. So they went outside and they fought him. Well, then I ended up sending all the videos to his parents, her parents, his siblings, aunts, uncles, cousins who loved me. Then I also decided to take legal action, and I sent the cops all of the screenshots of Sarah harassing me. And my sister got a video of us fighting, so I sent that to them too. Well, since she was 18 and I literally just turned 16, she got 3 months in county jail for minor harassment and minor physical altercations. So in the end, I think I won.
I'm 22 and my sister Anna, 21, is special needs. She has severe autism, and while she is verbal, most of her communication is physical, like sign language, due to her social discomfort. She does speak around family though, and has pretty bad cognitive skills. She can't comprehend boundaries and lives with our parents so they can best watch her. I'm getting married in 3 months. We planned a simple wedding and reception at my fiance Michael's parents' barn and farm. Since it's all going to be DIY and we aren't planning on anything too expensive, we can do things pretty quickly since flowers, food, and decor will be provided by his family. I sent out invites last week and I asked Anna not to come. I told my parents I understood that would mean they might not show up, but it was just a heads up. Why no Anna? Because she has an issue touching Michael and trying to kiss him. At times when we were at my parents' house, Anna would try to grab Michael's hands, try to lean in to kiss him, or would have really bad shutdowns if she wasn't allowed to be directly next to him. We've tried speaking to her, but there's only so much we can do when she really doesn't understand. I told my parents I just want one day for Michael to be my partner and not Anna's comfort person. They called me selfish and asked how I expected them to agree to something like this. They told me Anna is disabled and may never experience a wedding of her own, while I have Michael for probably the rest of our lives. She'll have no one, and that Michael and I can be a little bit more understanding to the reality of her life. Later on, my parents called me letting me know that they won't be coming and it's best that I don't bring Michael around anymore since I've chosen some man over my sister. They told me that Anna wanting to kiss Michael and hug him is normal for women her age and she doesn't understand what her feelings mean. I suggested they try to redirect her during the wedding, but they said that Michael is going to be family to her and he needs to get over it. I suggested they watch the wedding via web, and they said that it's not fair and they deserve to see things in person. I asked if I could pay for someone with proper credentials to watch her that day while they attend, and they asked me what I would do when they died and if I'd pawn her off every time. I dropped the unfortunate truth bomb that I don't want to put any more of my life aside for Anna. I did it up until I turned 18, and Anna is not my life's responsibility and I won't be her keeper. I assured them that I pay for her care, but if she's okay doing this to Michael, then I worry if I ever choose to have children and what she'd do to them. They said I was sick for suggesting she'd do anything to my future children and hung up on me. They sent me a lengthy text telling me not to contact them until I could do the right thing. Am I the asshole for not wanting my disabled sister at my wedding? I have a severe dog allergy. I can have varying degrees of severity when it comes to my reactions when I'm exposed to dogs. In short, being in a closed environment with a dog is out of the question. Earlier today, I was boarding my flight with some friends since we're all going on vacation together. As I'm boarding, I find that one of the passengers is boarding with a golden retriever with a guide dog vest on it. I want to make it clear that I'm not questioning whether this was a guide dog or not. This was also a fairly small plane since the flight would only take around an hour. As mentioned, I cannot be in a confined space with a dog. I told one of the flight attendants my concerns since I could have potentially ended up in the hospital if I had to fly with this dog. The flight attendant informed the woman with the dog, who goes into hysterics saying that she's visiting a sick family member and can't afford to miss her flight. I'm not sure how sick the family member in question was or is. The flight attendant asked if I'd be willing to miss the flight and catch the next one and would be leaving around 2 hours. I was offered a seat in first class if I was willing to do this. I said that unfortunately I wouldn't be able to do this since I'd paid for my vacation. Due to the size of the plane, the dog would not be able to go in the hold. The woman started insulting my character, saying that I was heartless for putting my vacation over her sick family member. I got on the plane and sat with my friends. As I did this, a woman in a nearby seat told me that she wanted to inform me that I am the biggest bitch she's ever met. I didn't respond since I didn't want to cause a confrontation. My friends haven't said that I'm in the wrong, but have kept making sarcastic jokes about the situation. Am I the asshole for refusing to give up my seat on the flight? I drove 2 hours to surprise my boyfriend and found out that he left for the week. It's me and my boyfriend's first year away at school. We're both from the same town but went to different schools, and they're 2 hours apart, so we've both made the drive many times and it's worked out great. My class was canceled tomorrow, so I decided it would be fun to go to Victoria's Secret, get some candles, massage lotion, and then go surprise him tonight. I got to his dorm and saw that his car was still in the parking lot, so I figured I had some time to get it cleared with his roommate and surprise my boyfriend. I texted his roommate and asked if I could let myself in, and he said of course, but my boyfriend had gone out of town for the rest of the week. I was confused. His parents have a house in Imperial Beach, but he always wants me to go with him. I called him and he said that yes, he was going, but he was still in town getting some stuff together. I asked him if I could come with him, and he said no, it was just a boys' trip. I told him that I was actually in his dorm parking lot and wanted to surprise him. He gave me this very condescending, "Oh, that's nice. I asked if he could at least please come by and see me, or we could meet up since I went through a lot of work to put this together. He just dismissively said, "No, I can't. We're already on our way." He then said that maybe he could come next weekend to see me, but I should just drive back, and then basically hung up. I looked at Find My Friends, and it turns out he was literally passing by his dorm as we were talking on the phone. He could have easily stopped by and said hello, and this really hurt. Maybe it was stupid, but I called his friends and they all said the same thing. The thing that's so sus is that none of them are going, and it's some random friend he's going with that none of them have ever met, but I shouldn't be suspicious. It's like all of them were coached into saying the right thing in short notice because they all said the same thing. I mean, I guess I could look at it like they all said the same thing because it's the truth, right? However, every one of my alarm bells is going off. This is so unlike him. Even if he were going there, he would have told me first. This is the first time he's ever gone without telling me or without inviting me. Maybe I'm a young, dumb, paranoid girlfriend, but my instincts are telling me something is up. What should I do here?
I made my teacher cry. Story time. When I was in second grade, I had this teacher and she was the devil, and we're gonna name her Miss Jackson. And the reason I call her a devil is because she would say really mean things to me to my face. She would be like, "Ty, stop talking like that. You sound like a little girl." Or, "Your favorite color can't be pink. You have to choose one of the boy colors." And since I was so young, I didn't understand how serious these things were, and I didn't know I can get her in trouble. And I would go home sad like every single day. Eventually, my mom noticed and she asked me what was wrong. So I told her some of the things that Miss Jackson would say to me, and my mom was mad. And my mom was like, "The next time she says something to you, say something rude back, and if you get in trouble, I'll handle her from there." So I was like, "Okay, I'll do it." Now, Miss Jackson was a heavy lady, so I knew if I said something rude to her, it would be about her weight. Though we don't body shame around here. We don't do that, okay? So I'm in school eating lunch with my friends who happen to be girls, and Miss Jackson comes up to me and she's like, "Shouldn't you be eating with the boys?" So I looked at her and I was like, "Shouldn't you be eating a salad?" And the lunchroom started laughing, and then she started crying.
Okay, so story time. So basically one time in 5th grade, my dad took me to get breakfast from Dunkin' Donuts. We went there before school like always, and as we were there, this strange man outside was staring at me and like making faces. Super creepy. We didn't know him or anything, so we walked inside and I was kind of freaked out. I told my dad that I was creeped out by him and he told me that nothing bad was gonna happen. Or so he thought. So we got our foods and we ate it. Everything was fine, chill. After we were done, we got up to leave. The man was gone by now, so I felt better But then on the way to my school, I saw him walking on the sidewalk. I figured he was going to his house or somewhere else. When we got to my school, no one was outside. It was kind of weird. We went to open the door because my dad was a part of the PTA, so he came in with me. The door for some reason was locked. My music teacher out of nowhere ran out and brought us inside quickly. She told us that our whole school was on code red. Scary. And that a man was in our school, so we went inside and I went and hid in the music room. Okay, so part 2. So I went and hid in the music room. Dad was in the PTA room, which was close by. Literally started crying because I was so scared and they weren't telling us anything because we were too young. I guess they didn't want to scare us. That didn't work. Once the code red was over, about 30 minutes later, we went to class. I went to go find my dad and make sure he was okay and see if he knew anything, and he didn't. When I got in my classroom, we were all talking about it, and my teacher said that the man just walked in and told them he was looking for one of his teachers from 15 years back. Huh? They gave us a description of the man, and I realized it was the same man from Dunkin' Donuts. He just walked in my school. I was freaked out because I saw him at Dunkin' Donuts before school started, and I hoped I never saw him again. But a few weeks later, I saw him again multiple times at the same Dunkin' Donuts. He literally just stared at me all the time. So yeah, that's my little story.
Story time. So once upon a time in grade 5, I was going through this really strange phenomenon where 5 of my adult teeth decided to all come in at once. Now I already had this really weird obsession with when I had a loose tooth, I loved to pluck it out of my face like berries off of a vine. So as you can imagine, sitting there with 5 loose teeth in my mouth felt like I was in an orchard on a hot summer's day. My brothers had just rewatched The Exorcist with me a few nights before while babysitting, so its cinematic masterpiece was still ever fresh in my mind as I sat there not listening to my teacher drone on about numbers, secretly popping my teeth out with my tongue and letting my mouth fill with blood. Till I noticed my dear old classmate Tristain, who used to eat rulers and pick on me, was staring at me. So I looked him dead in the eyes, opened my mouth slowly and let all of the teeth and blood just dribble out onto the desk. Then I said in a low grumble, "You will die tonight." He started screaming and then I had to go to church.
One day, my cousin made a Tinder, and we were having a family barbecue, so he came over. He was like, "Oh my god, Sam, this really hot girl just matched with me." And then he shows me. And then I see the profile, and it's literally pictures of Madison beer. But the name on the profile was Kalani. I was like, "Bro, I don't know who you think you're fucking texting, but it's not Madison beer. You're texting someone's fucking auntie right now. Whole ass auntie." He's like, "Guess you're about to find out." I was like, "No, what the no?" He's like, "Yeah, I just gave her the Addy. She's about to pull up. We're gonna meet. It's all cool, Sam. Trust me." Trust me. Trust me, he said. Okay. I trusted him. So I see a car pull up, and he's like, "Oh my god, I think it's her." I was like, "Oh shit, what if I do meet Madison Beer?" The door freaking opens, and this old lady pops up. I look at my cousin, and I'm like, Go hug her! Go, go, go. You were so excited. It's Kalani. The one and only. Come on.
This is a story of the time that I caught my neighbor's mom talking smack about me. So I don't know about you guys, but every single Wednesday in my middle school, we would have a bagel sale. And some people's parents would come in to help out. And my neighbor's mom was one of those parents. And I had a best friend at the time whose mom would also work at the bagel sales. But this best friend of mine, her mom never let us hang out with each other because she felt that I was a bad influence on her. When in reality, it was the complete opposite. She was the one that snuck the boys in her house, if you guys remember that story time, where they peed in a flower pot. So basically her mom wouldn't let us hang out. And sometimes my friend would go with her mom in the morning, basically as a ride to school, and to help out with the bagels too. And one day when she went in with her mom, my neighbor's mom also was there too. So my friend starts eavesdropping into their conversation, and my friend's mom brings me up and says how much of a bad kid I am and a bad influence. And my neighbor's mom was like, "Oh wow, that's my neighbor. Like, we always suspected something bad about her. Our whole entire neighborhood knows this about her." Basically making stuff up about me. So then I go home crying, tell my mom. Part 2 of catching my neighbor's mom talking smack about me. So my best friend tells me all these things that my neighbor was saying about me, obviously. And I got really upset, so I went home and I just started to cry. Because for some reason I felt like when I was younger, every one of my friends' parents hated me. And I never really knew why. I was always the type of person to let my friends do whatever they want and encourage them in doing whatever they want, whether that's breaking the rules or following the rules. So I mean, I guess that could be something, but I'm just being a supportive friend, sorry, I got off topic. So when I told my mom, she was like, "Okay, come with me, I'm gonna knock on her door." And I was like, heck no, I do not feel like dealing with this. Mom, you deal with it. So she calls her up on the phone, puts her on speakerphone, confronts her about the situation, and this lady starts going on about how she loves me like I'm her own child, saying that I was never a bad influence on her daughter, and that she actually wanted me to hang out with her daughter more. That's not what she was saying at Bagel Sale.
If you can solve this riddle, you're a genius. There was this woman and she was a serial killer. She would take men on dates and then poison them and kill them. One day she goes on a date with you. Ooh, but she can't go through with it because she's so in love with you. Eventually you two end up getting married and you buy a house together. When you buy the house, she claims the basement for her work and she says that you're not allowed to go down there. You say okay and you're happily married. But as time goes on, you get really curious, and one day she leaves for work and you decide to go downstairs and see what's down there. When you go downstairs, it's pitch black and you reach around the walls to see if there's a light switch to turn on, but there isn't. As you're feeling around the room, there's a light bulb above you that is unscrewed a little bit. You screw it in a little bit more to turn on the light. Immediately you see all the dead bodies that she's ever killed and you're in shock as you're looking around for a while, but then you hear her car pull up in the driveway and she's home from work. You quickly unscrew the light bulb, run upstairs, and sit down. When she gets home, she goes downstairs to check on her dead bodies, and she immediately knew that you were in there. How did she know? Pause this video right now because I'm about to say the answer. It was because the light bulb was still hot.
So for the first time in a really long time, I actually had something scary happen to me last night. So I was up really late because my boyfriend's in Vegas and their time difference is 2 hours behind. And he goes to bed really late. So for the past few days, I've been staying up till 4 a.m. until he falls asleep. So last night I decided I wanted to get some food, a late night snack. And at this point, I think it's like 2 a.m. And in my basement, I hear some rumbling and fumbling, but nobody's down there. Everybody's asleep. I don't have any pets. My dog's dead. I don't have any pets. So I'm in the kitchen listening, and my kitchen is right here, and like the stairs to the basement is right there, and like my house is low-key empty, so you could hear everything. And I start hearing little whispers, a little. So I'm sitting there eating my snack, and I hear that shit, and I pause the YouTube video I was watching, and I start hearing footsteps come upstairs. So I sat in my backyard for the rest of the night, up until like 3 a.m., and then I went inside and went to bed.
I almost got shot at a party. Story time. So back when I was 18, one of my homegirls decided to visit me. Keep in mind, I lived about 2 hours away from her. In the ghetto. Gra-ta-ta-ta. Anyway, she gets to my house. We're having a great time. We're chilling, we're vibing. Then one of my friends hits me up and says, "Hey, yo, Kenzie, there's a party tonight. You should slide." So, of course, I tell my homegirl, "Bitch, it's a party. Let's go." My friend was kind of nervous about it because this was her very first party that she's ever went to in her life. So she didn't know if she should go or not. And I was like, "Girl, like, you're going to be with me. You're going to be with Kenzie. Baby, we're going to have a good time." But I also did tell her if she didn't want to go, she can just chill with me and we could drink at the house. She ends up saying, "Fuck it." And we both go to the party. So we Uber to the party. This bitch is fat. There was hella people at this party, but it was lit as hell and everybody was turned the fuck up. Well, anyways, in the front of the house, there was a drug deal going on. And that's when everything goes south.
Storytime of how I caught my teacher and my best friend doing the dirty. So everything was fine up until the middle of the year when she started acting really strange, and so did he. So at the time, I was 13 and she was 14. And I'm pretty sure my teacher was in his mid-20s or 30s. So basically, she's the type of girl who literally hates school and would do anything to get out of class. Then I noticed her getting early to class and not leaving until everybody else left. Then I started paying a little more attention, and he would always walk by her desk and slip her notes and candy and just weird stuff, and it was really, really strange to me. He also moved to her desk right next to his, which his was all the way in the back left corner of the classroom. He would also always make jokes with her, which I didn't really understand until I found out they were sleeping together. So on Friday, my mom messaged her parents asking if they could pick me up Monday because my parents were going out of town that weekend and I hated riding the bus. Well, I'm guessing she didn't know that I was going home with her Monday. So that Monday, I got into her mom's car and I asked her mom where she was. Her mom said that she was failing math and her math teacher offered to tutor her. This teacher was also brand new. I'm running out of time, so like for part 2.